It's Caravana weekend in the city of Toronto. Celebrations across town. The Cleveland Indians and the Toronto Blue Jays hook up for the last of 10 times this year, with the Blue Jays hoping to equal the season series. Hello, everyone. Filling in for Buck Martinez, Sam Cosentino alongside Rance Mullinex. The team across the diamond from the Blue Jays made 3 deadline deals. Austin Kearns, Kerry Wood, and Jake Westbrook all moved in separate deals. The Toronto Blue Jays were anticipated to make a lot of moves, but nothing happened. Are you surprised?
No, I'm not surprised at all. I really didn't think that anything would happen because the big talk was that man right there, Jose Bautista, and I really didn't figure anybody in baseball was going to be willing to give up what they were going to want for Jose Bautista. I asked Jose about that. And he is very happy with the fact that he is staying here. He was not traded away. He loves it here in Toronto. He's very, very comfortable with the staff. And this is a place where he's really had a chance to develop out.
There's still a month left with the waiver deadline, so players can still move. But to talk more about that, we'll have Alex Anthopoulos on early in the ballgame to discuss all matters player movement related. Rance, when you look at the Toronto Blue Jays and you talk a little bit about the lineup, Cito Gaston promised a rotational mix when Travis Snider returned. He returned a couple of days ago, but today's the first day we're starting to see that rotational mix in the lineup.
Yes, Travis Snider will get the start in left this afternoon, bat 9th in the lineup. Of course, Dwayne Wise in right field. He's done a very fine job for the ball club. Bautista moves in and will play third and hit third this afternoon. Of course, you lose that great arm in right field, but an opportunity to get Travis Snider back in the lineup, another left-handed bat that brings power and more balance to this Jays lineup.
Travis Snider back in the lineup for the first time as a starter since the 14th of May. In that game, he was 2 for 4 with a home run and 3 driven in. He'll try and repeat that against Cleveland on Sportsnet next. Blue Jays throughout the month of July went 14-11 in large part because of the offense, Rance.
The offense really picked it up. Just continued basically doing what they've done all year in terms of home runs. They hit 43 home runs. That's first in the AL. But the batting average really came up significantly team-wise. That's something that is lacked prior to the month of July, but 283, very, very good.
And runners in scoring position, which over the last couple of years has been an issue for the Blue Jays. 261 ranking 6th. Another beautiful day here at the Rogers Center as we get set for the final of this 3-game set. Jose Bautista moves from right field to third base here this afternoon, Rance. And when you look at Bautista, how much of an adjustment will that be for him?
Not too significant, because he's played quite a bit of third base in the past. But it's always a little bit more difficult to come in from right field and play third base or play on the infield than it is to go from the infield out into right field. But with his athleticism, I don't anticipate any problems for him this afternoon.
Where do you prefer him to play?
I like him in right field, and because he can run, he's got that outstanding throwing arm. Here you get a good look at the strength that he has and the accuracy. He's very accurate. And I feel like in right field, the ball club, you can take advantage or more advantage of his athleticism than you can at third base.
Well, maybe the Cleveland Indians, knowing that Dwayne Wise is out there, still a pretty good arm, but maybe a little more risk-taking on the base paths as the Blue Jays get set to take the field. The Cleveland Indians are managed by Manny Acta, his first season at the helm of the Tribe, and here's the lineup he will throw Toronto's way. 43-61, sitting last in the American League Central. Crow, Cabrera, and Chu, the top three. His career at the Rogers Center, 400 with 6 doubles and 6 runs batted in. Santana, Laporta, and Brown making his major league debut, just called up from AAA Columbus during last night's game. Duncan Valbuena and Donald round out the lineup for Manny Acta, and that lineup will face Toronto Blue Jays' right-handed starter Jesse Litch.
Jesse Litch, who's been very good in his last 3 starts, 1-4 overall, but the numbers in terms of ERA and innings pitched, that ERA of the last 3 starts at 3.0, 42 and 2/3 innings of work, 47 hits, 15 strikeouts. Picked up his first victory of the season in his last start. That's his first, going all the way back to September 18th, 2008. So it's been a while for Jesse Litch. Defensively for the Jays this afternoon, in the outfield, Snyder, Wells, and Wise. Around the infield, Bautista, Escobar, Hill, Overbay, John Buck back behind the plate, and Jesse Litch doing the pitching this afternoon for the Jays. Now, Travis Snyder getting his first start since coming off the disabled list here this afternoon in left field. Of course, Travis Snyder able to play right, left, do a very good job in both. He's a very good athlete, runs well, pretty good arm strength, pretty accurate with that arm, and does a nice job in left or right defensively.
Cito Gaston prefers to have him in left field, but with this rotational mix of players expected to take place from now until the end of the year, with good health, he may see time in both corner outfield spots. So we're set here at the Rogers Center. Litch facing Trevor Crow, the Indians center fielder. Slightly better against right-handed pitching this year. In his last 13 games, just under 300, including 3 doubles. Alan Porter calls the balls and strikes this afternoon. And Litch is one of those guys who gets it and throws it. Wastes no time at all between pitches, and that's one of the things that he's worked on of late.
Jesse Litch, when he's at his best, has very good tempo on the mound. That's one of the reasons why he has improved over his last 3 starts. 1 of 3, according to pitching coach Bruce Walton, is the fact that he's worked with very, very good tempo.
And you have to go back to that Kansas City start when rain threatened. And in that game on the 20th of July, Litch went out there. The Blue Jays got an early lead and then felt he had to almost quick pitch in order to get to the required 5 innings to make that game official. It did end up going the distance. And so Litch learned a great lesson there to pick back up the pace that we saw him be so successful with earlier as he issues a leadoff walk.
Well, Jesse Litch, as I mentioned, he's not overpowering. He has a fastball that he will cut and sink at times. Has a slider that's solid, pretty good, nothing exceptional, and a change to go along with it. He must use both sides of the plate, and of course when he's on top of his game, he does that very well.
Labored through 5 1/3 in his last start against Detroit. No decision, but he did walk 3 batters in that game. Able to start Asdrubal Cabrera off with a strike. Just 9 for 42 since returning off the disabled list. Missed 2 months with a fractured left forearm. And Manny Acta expects Cabrera now to be one of the leaders on this Cleveland club that, well, overnight has really gotten a lot younger. Kearns, a veteran. Westbrook, a veteran. Kerry Wood, all three veterans dealt away here in the last 2 days. Inside Litch goes.
And Crow at first base, not a big base stealer. He has stolen 10. He's been caught 3 times. And of course, Jesse Litch, tough to run against because he's very quick to the plate with his delivery. And you'd like to leave the right side open.
Hit hard by Cabrera. Going back is Dwayne Wise, and Wise will watch this off the top of the wall and out. Home run Asdrubal Cabrera. Cleveland leads it 2-0 on Cabrera's second home run of the year.
Well, Cabrera with some great hustle and effort yesterday scored the winning run in yesterday's ball game, and he's already factored in here early with a 2-run home run right off the top of the wall at about the 375.
So a 2-run shot, a leadoff walk, and a 2-run shot by Cabrera has the Indians out ahead. Shin-Soo Choo now faces Litch.
The count 2-0 to Choo. Ball hit hard to Overbay, the first baseman. He'll take it himself unassisted, and Choo is out, grounding out to Lyle Overbay for the first out here in the top of the first.
Carlos Santana steps in now. A hot young prospect. Acquired in a trade with the LA Dodgers, and Santana, much like his hero, wears number 41. Victor Martinez here before him. First pitch from Litch is in there for a strike. Blue Jays trail at 2-0 on an Asdrubal Cabrera shot. Final of 10 meetings between these two clubs this year. First meeting in May resulted in a 3-game sweep by the Blue Jays. The Indians returned the favor at the end of June, sweeping a 4-game set. And the two teams have split the first 2 games of this 3-game series.
The pitching coach Bruce Walton also mentioned to me that Litch over the last 3 starts has been very good with his fastball, 60% strikes with the fastball. He says we know that all of his secondary stuff he can command at will.
Santana hits it hard to center field. Vernon Wells a few steps over, now using his hand as well as the glasses to shield the sun, and makes the catch.
In his last 3 starts, 1-1, 3.00 ERA, and that batting average, opponent's batting average, has fallen off to the tune of 53 by 53 points. Over the last 3 starts, opponents hit just 250 against him. Doesn't hurt to have on average 6 runs support over those last 3 starts.
In the course of the year, the support for Litch just over 4 runs, and so that has increased over the last 3, and that surely has helped him out.
And it's interesting, prior to the All-Star break for his career, 9-14 with a 4.92 ERA. Post All-Star break,
This one hit hard by Matt Laporta, and this will go off the top of the wall. Wells will throw it in, and Laporta has a 2-out double. Ball really carrying here tonight, especially to the gaps. We saw that ball by Cabrera bounce off the top of the wall and out, and here Laporta gives it a ride.
Just a mistake fastball. When the ball was initially hit, it looked like it might leave the ballpark, but sometimes the way the wind kind of swirls around here, it doesn't carry quite as well to straightaway center field as it does to right and left. Might have got a little bit of an assist from the wind there, knock that ball down, keep it in the ballpark. But just to finish that thought, post All-Star break, Jesse Litch 12-9 with a 3.09 ERA for his career.
So hoping to capitalize on these second half starts, and the longer he goes, the further removed from that surgery, it's expected that both velocity and location will improve. Major league debut for Jordan Brown, hit hard on the ground. Bautista picks it, looks into his glove to check that it's there, and throws Brown out. But Asdrubal Cabrera does the damage, a 2-run shot. Cleveland leads it by that score. Of late and sit fourth in the American League East. Dwayne Wise draws in the lineup for Fred Lewis and will lead things off. Escobar, Bautista in his last 4 games, 9 for 14. Wells, Lind, and Hill, and the bottom third of the order goes Overbay, Buck, and Travis Snyder making his first start since May 14th, hitting .239 this year. He starts in left field.
And for the second game in a row, they will face a pitcher in Genmar Gomez that they haven't seen. Gomez making his second start at the major league level. He won his first one against the Detroit Tigers, a 7-2 win. Went 7 innings, gave up just 5 hits, along with 4 strikeouts.
Genmar Gomez has spent the season in AAA with Columbus, and 8-8 with a 5.20 ERA there. But because of the success on that July 18th start and the 7-2 win over Detroit, he gets the call here this afternoon. Dwayne Wise has done an admirable job coming in off the bench defensively to pinch run at times and making spot starts.
He's done a very good job hitting .280, 3 home runs, 11 RBIs in 26 games. He's been solid.
Thought the pitch was in and now falls behind 1-2. All 11 of Wise's runs batted in have occurred in his last 9 games. And so he has started to pick up his play of late. I'd like to remind you to stay tuned here to Rogers Sportsnet in this Jays game, as Alex Anthopoulos will join us next inning. Wayne Wise is struck out.
Shortstop, number 5, Julio Escobar.
His last pitch appears to be a backdoor slider. Starts it off the plate. It's a good pitch.
So Genmar Gomez, much the same as yesterday. We saw Josh Toplin making his second career start. He was brilliant for Cleveland, working on just 3 days rest. Was able to go 5+, allowing 4 hits as Escobar pops it up to the right side. Matt Laporta using the glove to shield the eyes and hauls it in.
Genmar Gomez, nothing overpowering. Here's a fastball with some sink that he'll top out at about 90 miles an hour. A little slider which he struck Wise out with, and an occasional changeup. And the key for him, as it always is for a sinker ball pitcher, he's got to keep the ball down in the strike zone consistently.
That's something the Cleveland Indians have really coveted. Pitchers who keep the ball down, work down in the zone, and throw a lot of sink. Aaron Laffey on the DL does that. Jake Westbrook, when he was here, very famous for that. Fausto Carmona, same thing. Jose Bautista.
Ground balls don't leave the ballpark. And if you have very good command with some sink, you keep the ball down in the strike zone. You know, a lot of ground balls, but you pitch to contact, keep your pitch count down.
Bautista heading to count 3-0. What a month of July he had. He had 347, 11 home runs, 29 driven in. Named the Blue Jays Honda Player of the Month for his efforts in July. And the pitch inside. And Bautista draws the 2-out walk.
Let's take a look at those home runs in July. 11, followed by Teixeira in New York with 8. And Pena, Quinton, and Swisher with 7.
Just the third Blue Jay to have 10+ homers in a month 2 times throughout the course of one season. Carlos Delgado did it twice. And George Bell back in 1987, when he hit 47 home runs, had 10 or more home runs in a month twice that year. Vernon Wells steps in for the first time this afternoon. Wells riding a 5-game hit streak. Has hit over 300 since the All-Star break, but the power has taken a bit of a dip. Just 1 home run for Wells in his last 105 at bats. Bautista extends his lead. Gomez gives him a look and then deals. Hit hard by Wells into the left field corner. Bautista rounds second. Out in left field, it's Duncan who gets it in quickly, and Vernon Wells has a 2-out double.
The ball hit very hard down into the left field corner, and a little bit of a tough break for the Jays. The ball caroms around and comes right back to Duncan, the left fielder, and that prevented Bautista from coming all the way around and scoring. That ball rattles around or kind of gets hung up down there in the corner. Bautista most certainly runs well enough to score.
And Wells picks up his 32nd double of the year. That's good for the top 5 in the American League. He gives way to Adam Lind. First pitch from Gomez misses away. Lind 6 for 20 in the homestand. Gomez evens the count. It's Bautista at third. Vernon Wells with that 2-out double at second. But there are 2 out in the inning. Gomez trying to work out of a mini jam here. The Blue Jays trail at 2-0 on Asdrubal Cabrera's second home run of the year. Lind hit hard on the ground, but the shortstop or second baseman Donald makes the play. The Blue Jays strand 2 and continue to trail by 2 through 1 inning of play here at the Rogers Center. Alex Anthopoulos is next. Sportsnet 1. It will launch August 14th. Will carry 25 Jays games, plus other Major League Baseball games, as well as Raptors and so much more. Rogers Sportsnet 1 coming your way August 14th. And on that night, we will have the LA Angels against the Toronto Blue Jays. Top of the second inning here at the Rogers Center. Shelley Duncan leads it off. Blue Jays trailing 2-0.
Shelley Duncan had a fine ball game yesterday.
Right up and in early on, and it goes off the end of the bat.
A couple of hits. Here's a look at the pitch up and in, right off the knob. Quite honestly, I don't know how they didn't catch a piece of his hand. But he singled to left, he doubled off the wall and right, and had a couple of outstanding catches yesterday that very well could have been the difference in the game.
Probably see a lot more playing time now that Austin Kearns has been dealt away. Just 2 for 14 in his last 6 games. Litch deals and misses away. The Toronto Blue Jays will leave immediately after this game, get on the plane and head to New York City for a 3-game set with the Yankees. Duncan lifts it into left field. Travis Snyder tested here in the second inning.
The ball got in a little bit on Duncan and jammed him, and good job by Snyder to give himself a chance, pause, get a chance to read it, and then close on it very quickly and make the catch.
Proud to be joined by General Manager Alex Anthopoulos, a busy guy yesterday and probably will continue to be for the month. But we asked everyone around here, were you surprised that you didn't make a deal yesterday?
No, I wasn't surprised. I don't think you can ever expect to make a trade. You know that there's so much that goes into it. I mean, we had, God, I felt maybe last weekend we were real close to getting a deal done on something else and fell apart. And then it fell apart, and then it came back and ended up falling apart again. So you never expect to, but you know we don't stop here. We're going to continue to try to get some things done to improve the club.
Hit in the air by Valbuena. Vernon Wells over. Let's take it for the second out of the inning. Jose Bautista, one of those guys that might have been rumored to go. Arbitration eligible now that he has not left the club. Is a long-term contract a consideration for Bautista?
Fair to ask, and obviously with our better players, they're players that we want to have here for the long term. In terms of contractual status and things like that, it's just things I don't comment on. It makes it more complicated. Everyone starts to blog about it and write about it, and those are things I keep close to the vest. I think when we did an extension with Adam Lynn, no one knew we were even talking about it, and we spent a month doing so. So those are things that we'll keep in-house and we'll continue to evaluate, and if it makes sense for a lot of our players, we look at it on a case-by-case.
Now, even though we're into the waiver situation, is there any opportunity or any chance that you think between now and... Well, we'll get back to that.
Quick inning, Alex. I guess you didn't feel like talking to us too much. Good for Jesse Litch, though. He goes 1, 2, 3. Thanks in large part to some good defense. The Blue Jays Gonzalez, and here he shows his wares. Good stop on a line drive. Tell us your thoughts on Escobar and how he's been since he's been here.
He's been great, and it's what our scouts said he was, and we got to see a lot of video. And I've watched the player a lot in Atlanta the last few years. Great talent, and you don't get him when he's hitting 300 and winning the MVP award for the Braves in 2009. You know, we had to get him when his stock was down and he wasn't playing well, and it was a good change of scenery for him. And in talking to him, he seems very happy. He's got a smile on his face all the time, and I think he's very committed to learning to speak English, and we're going to continue to work on that.
Aaron Hill leads it off for the Blue Jays in the bottom of the second inning. Sam Cosentino, Rance Mullix, and General Manager Alex Anthopoulos with us here discussing all things trade deadline.
Is there any possibility, Alex, between now and, let's say, the end of this month, that maybe something might be able to get done in the way of
I think it's possible. It's not easy because you have to run a guy through trade waivers, and really what happens is any team in the league can claim the player, and if they do, then they have exclusive negotiating rights with you over a 2-day period. So it limits your options quite a bit. And at the same time, when you're trying to get players back, if they haven't run them through or they haven't cleared, so it's very difficult to get value.
Now, you mentioned a couple of times.
Got it.
Aaron Hill. This one has lift, this one has length, and it's off the foul pole. Home run, Aaron Hill. 15th of the year for Hill, and the deficit is cut to 1. Oh, man, what a shot.
Yeah, it was a shot. You know, Aaron Hill it's been a tough year for him, but you know, really, if he can just stay positive and think in terms of, if he hit 10 or 12 more home runs between now and the end of the season and finish on a positive note, well, he gave this one a ride, and it just stayed fair. But you mentioned, Alex, that there was a couple of deals you thought you got pretty close to, that you might have had a deal done. They fell apart. What typically causes a deal to fall apart when you get that close?
I think when most deals, at least in my experience, end up falling apart are the ones that you have a third team involved or even a fourth team. And, from our standpoint, we felt like we were getting pretty close on one of them. And the third team we were waiting on, we had the framework done, and then they got delayed for 2 or 3 days. And then all of a sudden other teams jumped in, and the price changed on us. And part of it is, and that's why I try to keep things so close to the vest, when things get out on the internet and the blogs, I certainly do it. You chase some of the rumors, you call up. It sort of confuses things for the other teams and ends up slowing things down.
This is your first trade deadline at the helm. You've experienced it as an assistant before. Did you get the sense at all that maybe some of your colleagues were trying to take advantage of the rookie?
No, I don't think so, because really, you're in the winter meetings and the GM meetings the year before. I was pretty involved, and even throughout the summer, I continued to have trade talks with people, and talking to other GMs. There's a lot of people get offers that don't fit and that they don't necessarily like. So I didn't get anything specific. The fact that we were close on a few trades speaks for itself. The fact that we've already been able to make some speaks for itself. Certainly we were able to make the trade with Seattle, with Philadelphia, with the Astros. Certainly we traded with Atlanta. So I think you're never always going to line up, and not everybody sees players the same way.
What have you found to be the most challenging part of the job?
Oh, sleeping right. I got, it's probably one of those things that I don't know that you're ever satisfied. I don't know that you're ever happy.
On Hopper, Donald recovers to get over Bay in time. And the fans don't like it here at the Rogers Center, but it was hit so hard that Donald was able to recover after the original bobble. One down in the inning as John Buck steps in. Alex, one of the tactics used by general managers here, now that we're past the non-waiver deadline, is to throw players out there on waivers to gauge interest in something that may occur in the offseason.
Sure.
Is that a tactic that you plan to use?
I think every team runs almost every player through. It's just, some do it as, I think most times, if there might be a player who's having a down year, who's making quite a bit of money, that has some years left on his contract. Some clubs might do it as what we call a trial balloon. Run a guy out there, see if he clears. We get to see who clears and who does not clear. So most times, guys with pretty big contracts that aren't having very good years clear. And I think should there be a player like that 2 or 3 clubs claim, I think in that sense, a club might sit back and say, you know what, we'll wait till the offseason. There's a market for this guy and try to do something. If he gets claimed by one team, they may elect to just let the player go.
John Buck draws the walk with 1 out. Aaron Hill led the inning off with a home run to cut the lead to 2-1. It was Asdrubal Cabrera's 2-run shot in the first that put Cleveland ahead.
And now, over these next 2 months, of course, you're going to play over the next 38 games teams that are 500 or better, so you're going to have obviously a chance to really evaluate your ball club and maybe get an indication of what it is that you may need to add at some point, maybe in the offseason or in the future.
Certainly, we've talked about it all summer. I mean, even though we're focused on having as good a team as we can in 2010, we're always trying to look ahead and look at next year's club. And I think even some of the trades that we look to make over the course of the last few weeks, they would have potentially impacted the 2011 club and also helped us in 2010. So those things fall through, but we were hard at work actually just before I came in the booth, going over the 29 other clubs and looking for players that could be blocked, players that could be non-tendered, players that could be available in trade, and we're really going to make sure to monitor those players the next 2 months and be aggressive after some of them as soon as they're available.
Back to the top of the order for Dwayne Wise. John Buck was actually brushed by that pitch, so he reached on a hit batsman. There are 2 out in the inning as Wise swings through the first pitch.
There's also been a lot of talk about this young player that you picked up, 19 years old, who's an A-ball. Goes, I believe, is the correct pronunciation. Your thoughts on him and how far you think he may be away from being able to help the big clubs?
Sure, he's a very athletic, exciting player, has a swagger and a confidence to him, the type of kid that plays real shallow in center field. He's a tremendously fast runner, Gold Glove caliber center fielder with a great arm. He threw 95 miles an hour off the mound. But he's 19 years old in the Florida State League, which is extremely young to be at that level right now. Just you look at Adani Chivaria, he's already up as a 21-year-old. He was playing in that league.
Well, the inning is over. We thank you so much for joining us, and continued success throughout the rest of the year.
All right. Okay.
Thanks. Batting practice visits, a fan club road trip to see the Jays, and a whole lot more. Purchase your fan club membership for $20. Visit BlueJays.com/fan club or call 416-341-1455 to become a Blue Jays fan club member. Top of the third inning. Back to the top of the lineup for Maniac's Cleveland Indians. Trevor Crowe walked and scored in his first appearance and comes out swinging here in the third.
We touched on the fact that the fastball command has been very good for Litch over his last 3 starts.
Pitch inside, and Crowe wastes no time making his way to first as he too is hit. Cito Gaston didn't seem to think so. He wants to come out and have words with Alan Porter.
The replay there looked like it hit him just above his ankle, right ankle. And Cito Gaston appears to be satisfied with the explanation, but back to the fastball, that is most certainly part of his success. But against a young ball club like this Cleveland Indian team, young guys like to hit the fastball, so they're going to be very aggressive. And sometimes maybe you need to put a little more emphasis on, especially early in the count, throwing something other than a fastball.
Cabrera shows bunt. It's called a strike. Anything from Alex that surprised you or enlightened you at all?
It was interesting that he felt a couple of times that he was close to getting a deal done. And then for whatever reason, it fell apart.
Now Cabrera swinging and swings through that Litch offering. He's behind 0-2.
So I found that interesting.
Of course, you want to ask him who, but
he's not going to say. He's not going to disclose that.
Yeah, he's good that way. I mean, the Lynn thing came about, and when player, agent, general manager speak for 1 month and none of it gets out, that says a lot about how Alex wants to do his business. Which misses away from Litch. I think the waiver wire period is always very interesting, and at times it slips as to who gets out on waivers, and at times guys are slighted by that, knowing that, hey, my name's been thrown out there. But as Alex mentioned, it's quite commonplace.
It happens all the time and it can happen with anybody. It can happen with the best player on your team or the 25th man on your roster.
Slashed foul by Cabrera.
And sometimes, like he said, it's just a trial balloon. It's just oftentimes, let's see who's interested. And if it may be someone that we have interest in, somebody that they have, so maybe, who knows, maybe we can work a deal. The other thing that I found interesting is what oftentimes causes a deal to fall apart at the last minute, and that's when a third or even a fourth team gets involved. It gets out on the internet.
Asking price changes.
People want another player. Any combination of things at that point. Thought that was interesting.
Yeah, what I found really interesting is that he's somebody, or at least people on his staff, are out there checking out the rumors and the tweets and all of those things online, just to kind of get a feel for things. When you think that maybe none of that stuff happens, they don't pay attention to any of that, it actually becomes a very good source for them.
They have to pay attention, because maybe not everybody does that, but there are those out there that are being thorough, and you have to be the same way to compete.
Jesse Litch now at 38 pitches. He has Cabrera in a 1-2 hole. Trevor Crow's on at first. He was hit by a pitch to start the inning. Little piece of it for Cabrera to keep the at-bat alive. Unfortunately, we had a couple of short innings. They wanted to ask him a little bit about Deck McGuire and how the negotiations with the Blue Jays' first-round pick are going. And I wanted to ask him a little bit about, do you find some players easier to trade in this waiver period, such as bullpen guys, where maybe the teams lower in the standings wouldn't be so interested? Crow on the move, hit to left field. Travis Snyder back in front of the track, makes the catch, and Crow retreats to first. One down.
Number 17, Shin-Soo Choo.
But there was no doubt he was extremely active on the phone, and even standing up here, he had the BlackBerry going in case anything is cooking as early as this first day after the non-waiver deadline. Shin-Soo Choo. Choo grounded out to first his first time up. 1 for 2 off Litch coming into this game, and he has homered off him. That Wednesday, June 30th game, a game which Cleveland won 3-1. Litch pitched well in that game. He went 6 innings, gave up 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 home run to Choo in the first inning.
And Litch might need to make a
good play by Overbay on the short hop to Escobar. Litch covering the bag, and Choo gets down the line in time.
Well, the toughest double play to turn is the 3-6 back to 1 double play. And, of course, Chu runs very well. The ball was not hit hard. But you get a look at the athleticism of Jesse Litch. Quickly over, finds the bag, makes the stretch. Just like he was the first baseman, it looked like Chu was just ahead of the throw, and clearly there. His foot was on the bag before the ball hit the glove. Well, that Chu can run. He can get down the line.
Great player all the way around. All facets of his game above average. Carlos Santana up for the second time in the game. He flied out to Vernon Wells in the first.
And Chu a threat to run off of first base. He leads the Indians.
Has reached safely in 39 of the 44 games in which he's played.
In stolen bases with 13.
One foot well on the turf for Chu. Pitch to Santana, misses away.
He's not what you would call a true base stealer. You know, the definition of a true base stealer is someone who gets aboard that there's no doubt he's going to run. Everybody in the ballpark knows he's going to run, and he can still have success.
Not too many guys like that these days.
Carl Crawford.
Big swing from Santana.
Most certainly would be one. Rajay Davis in Oakland would be another. Not a name that a lot of people are familiar with.
Really makes you marvel at guys like Ricky Henderson. 130 stolen bases in one season.
It almost seems impossible that a player could steal 130 bases in a 162 game schedule.
Chu not going anywhere. Check swing. Tapped over. Litch running in hard to get it. It's Escobar on the run. It can't be picked by Overbay. And now Chu will advance to third. So a very tough play when the sun is beating down on that turf, even though it is a different turf than we've seen in the past. Still has a lot more bounce to it.
It looked like with the check swing, the ball came off the plate. And it's great effort by Escobar. Not so sure that Bautista had a better angle and might have been able to make a quicker snap throw. Looked as if Santana was going to beat the play at first base, and ball gets under the glove of Overbay, assuming that error went to the shortstop, which allowed Chu to move to third.
So runners at the corners for Matt Laporta. He and Jesse Litch grew up in the same area in Florida, and when they were reunited back in Cleveland in June, they had some lengthy discussions in the outfield about who would have Providence in this matchup. So those friendships are put away here with Laporta facing Jesse Litch. Good cut from Laporta. Count 1-1. Litch and Laporta, they grew up playing baseball and basketball against each other while youngsters hit in the air to Dwayne Wise. So Jesse Litch wins the Battle of Friends and holds Cleveland at bay. Toronto comes to bat in the bottom of the third.
course, 43 in July. April, May, and July. Led the league in home runs in terms of the total hit by a ball club.
The top home run hitter in all of baseball is Jose Bautista. He will hit second this inning.
And even in June, when they hit 26, if you stop and think about it, with the days off, that's basically one every game. That's a pretty good clip in itself.
And already hit one today. Aaron Hill's 15th of the year has drawn the Blue Jays to within one. Escobar leads it off for the Jays in the bottom of the third inning.
Speaking of trades, as far as many are concerned, the fact that Yuniel Escobar is now in a Jays uniform, that was a pretty significant trade. I mean, it hasn't maybe gotten as much play. And Gonzalez had done a tremendous job for the Jays. But you get youth, a guy with tremendous upside. And, of course, for the next 3 or 4 years isn't going to cost you near as much as a player like Alex Gonzalez, just because of service time.
Escobar hit hard on the ground, coming in to pick it there. And a good play is Luis Valbuena.
Third baseman, number 19,
Jose Bautista, 11 home runs in the month of July. Had an 8-game hit streak come to an end yesterday. He was 0 for 3, but did draw a walk. But the numbers undeniable in the month: 347, 11, and 29 driven in. One of the big knocks on his game throughout this huge home run binge is that he hasn't been able to hit for average, but that average up now to 260. Not to mention he's drawn a ton of walks.
Well, in his walk in his first at bat, he's now drawn 61 on the year. He also has a very good on base percentage of 3.72. And of his 95 hits coming into this afternoon's game, 57 of them have been for extra bases.
So this guy has done it all. He's played a fine right field, leading the American League with 9 outfield assists. And continues to hit the ball out of the park at a major league leading pace. Jenmar Gomez, his second big league start, has held the Blue Jays to just 1 run. Bautista reaches in to get it as Valbuena once again on the run. Gets a little help from Laporta at first.
You can win an all-new Honda CRZ and other great prizes when you vote for the Honda Play of the Month. Vote today at BlueJays.com.
2 down the inning for Vernon Wells. First pitch away for Jenmar Gomez. Made his major league debut July 18th against the Tigers. Justin Masterson tweaked his ankle, couldn't go. Anderson Hernandez, playing a lot of shortstop for Manny Acta, was designated for assignment to make room for Gomez to come up. And in that game, 7 innings, allowed just 5 hits, 2 unearned runs, and won his debut 7-2. 2-0 pitch to Wells, misses.
We mentioned it in the pregame show. The keys for Vernon Wells offensively is to get his hands loaded and started soon enough. He has a tendency to start late with his hands, and when he does that, it leads to a lot of weak ground balls on the left side, because all he has left to hit with is just kind of flip the bat at the baseball. But when he gets loaded in time,
popped up towards the middle of the diamond. Donald back. He won't get there. It goes off his glove. Vernon Wells turning and running hard. Hustles into second. And takes advantage of the drop ball. Tough play for Donald.
It's a very tough play. The center fielder, Crow, did not get a good read on the ball at all. You can see from that angle, camera angle, he almost broke back just a little bit. So he had no chance. A long way to go for the second baseman, Donald. And a fine effort, but a tough chance trying to make a sliding over-the-shoulder catch. And right off the end of his glove, and because Wells was hustling into second base with a double.
Second double of the game for Wells. Adam Lind mired in an 0 for 9 slump right now. Trying to bring Wells home in to tie this game.
It's kind of funny in batting practice today. I said to Adam Lind, I said, you know, you didn't have much luck yesterday. I said, he hit the ball hard twice. You know, he lined out to left field, and then he lined out hard to first base. I said, you really didn't have much to show for it. He said, oh, yeah, I did. I managed to produce 2 outs with 1 swing of the bat. When he lined out to first, and were able to double Vernon Wells off the bag.
Pitch high from Genmar Gomez.
So at least he had a pretty good sense of humor about it.
Yeah, that's one thing you really need to be able to do is put bad at bats or bad games behind you or bad luck behind you. And unfortunately for Lind, he's had to do more than his fair share of that this season.
And in his first at bat here today, he hit the ball very, very hard, right on the ground, but right at the second base.
Two balls, 2 strikes, and 2 out. Pitch misses away.
And pretty much everything has been soft away in this at bat to Adam Lind. That probably due to the fact that, to some degree, that first base is open. Let's see if he gives in.
This is away, and Lind draws the walk.
And he missed it again with the changeup away. And you almost sense that they're more comfortable with the righty versus righty matchup. However, the right-hander he's facing in this at bat hit the ball out of the ballpark against him in his first at bat here this afternoon, Aaron Hill. But clearly, they were not going to give in to Adam Lind.
Lefty's hitting 300 in AAA off Gomez. Righty's hitting 267.
And that's an excellent point. He may be referring back to AAA, where he feels he's much more comfortable and successful against right-handers. But sometimes you got to change your thinking a little bit here at the major league level. It's not always that way.
Give Hill 15 home runs on the year with that solo shot to lead off the second. Swinging hard again. This one will find a gap. It gets down in front of Crow. Vernon Wells comes around to score. Adam Lind advances to third, and Hill ties it up. He's driven in both Blue Jays runs.
Number 35, Watt.
And this is just a nice piece of hitting. Homer's in his first at bat with the fastball. He gets a little slider that stays up. He doesn't try to hit the ball out of the ballpark. He just goes with it. That's a great job of hitting by Aaron Hill.
Managers love those 2-out runs.
You know, and you can go back to the fact that with 2 out and nobody aboard, Vernon Wells, the ball he hit to center field is the ball that has to be caught here at the major league level. And Crow, the center fielder, with a very poor jump. He ends up with a double, and the Jays have been able, as a result of that, to tie the game up.
That old theory, baseball is a game of inches, has reared its head in this game. Hill's home run off the foul pole, about 8 inches fair. And that ball off the glove of Donald, which led to the second Blue Jays run, just inches away from being in his glove. Lyle Overbay, happy to have not been traded. He will become a free agent at season's end. Very open to coming back to play with the Blue Jays, as long as the contract seems fair. A little bit in Arizona, a little bit in Milwaukee, but Toronto is the place where he has spent the most time in his major league career and feels really comfortable here.
And that's exactly what he said. He really likes it here in Toronto, enjoys playing for the Jays.
Rip foul.
Probably if he returns to this ball club next year, it's going to be determined by the length of contract, what the Jays might be willing to offer him. And of course, there's going to be interest from other ball clubs, and that most certainly could make his decision for him.
It's caught looking, does Overbay, so he strands Linden Hill, but not before Aaron Hill is able to tie it up with an RBI single.
Brought to you by your local independently owned home hardware or home hardware building center. Homeowners helping homeowners.
Another gorgeous day in the city of Toronto, and here at the Rogers Centre, fans have come out to watch the last game of this homestand. First two have been split by these two teams. Jesse Litch back out to work the fourth. Gave up a 2-run home run to Asdrubal Cabrera, the second batter of the game, but has settled down since. Jordan Brown just called up, was expected to be in the lineup yesterday, but missed a flight connection and arrived in the 6th inning. Chops it on the ground to the right side. Overbay flips it to Litch, one down.
Left fielder, number 47, Shelley Duncan.
Rance, you touched on it earlier, and he at times gives you that David Wells appearance, but as you well know, being a former teammate, Wells didn't look like much of an athlete, but he sure was.
He was a very good athlete. He was a very good basketball player in high school. If you've ever, I don't know if you have, but if you've ever had the opportunity to play golf with David Wells, he's a fine golfer. And of course, he always fielded his position very well. I know a lot of people probably wouldn't agree with that because they just recall seeing David Wells in his body shape, and that would lead you to think, well, he's probably not much of an athlete, but he actually is a very good athlete. And Jesse Litch is as well. He moves very well off the mound, and you got a very good indication of that on the 3-6-1 potential double play, how well he could move over, get over there, find the bag, and actually even stretch like a first baseman.
Did a nice job covering on the first out of the inning to get Jordan Brown. Duncan behind 0-2.
The old adage, you can't always tell a book by its cover.
Nice touch. Litch working to Duncan, 0-2.
You know, I was like everybody else the first time I ever saw David Wells. I played in a B game with him over at Clearwater against the Phillies. A B game, of course, being played in the morning at 10 o'clock. And he was the starting pitcher, and there was a foul ball right over around what would be the on-deck circle for the Phillies, which is a good distance from the mound. There's a ball well up in the air. There's a high pop-up, and the catcher lost it, never did see it. And David, from the mound all the way over to the on-deck circle, threw on the brakes at the last moment to avoid running into the fence real hard there, reached out and caught the ball, and that's when I kind of changed my whole perspective.
Hey, this guy can move.
This guy can move.
2-2, swing and a miss. Strike 3, first strikeout of the game. The Blue Jays in the month of July had some pretty good pitching.
Well, the Jays have had some good pitching pretty much the entire season. In July, a team ERA 3.75. The starters up just a little bit. Bullpen very, very good. And a little better than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings of work.
You have guys like Romero and Morrow amongst the top 10 in American League strikeouts all season long. Cecil has done his part. And as we have seen so often, the starters relaxing there on the bench, but all sitting together and continuing to learn from one another as they watch Jesse Litch work here in this 2-2 game. Hit hard by Valbuena, past Aaron Hill and into right field.
You could win an all-new Honda CRZ and other great prizes when you vote for the Honda Play of the Month. Vote today at BlueJays.com.
2 down and a runner board for Jason Donald. Blue Jays and Indians tied at 2 in the top of the 4th inning. Sam Cosentino and Rance Mullenix with you on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. The final meeting between these two clubs this season. And it's the Indians with a 5-4 edge in that season series. Donald looks at a strike acquired in the trade that sent Cliff Lee to Philadelphia. Lou Morrison, Carlos Carrasco also coming back in that deal. Donald came up through the Philly system as a shortstop, but has now seemingly found a home at second base here for Manny Acton. Jesse Litch with a bit of a breather, trying to get out of the inning here. He's given up just 4 hits in the game. Donald pops it up. Left fielder Travis Snyder over, so too is Vernon Wells, and it'll be Snyder who takes charge to end the inning. Blue Jays and Indians tied at 2. Throughout the course of the trading period, here are some of the names that changed teams.
Well, the two probably biggest deals, if you will, most certainly Cliff Lee going to the Texas Rangers. And boy, he really puts that ball club in a great position to go on and win that division. They're in command as it is. You throw Cliff Lee into that rotation now, and that it's really going to factor in. They get the postseason. Now you can run Cliff Lee out there maybe 3 times in a 7-game set. Also, Roy Oswald going to the Philadelphia Phillies. I thought Ted Lilly and Terrio going to the Dodgers was a pretty significant trade. Everybody else pretty much across the board, I don't think are going to be big impact with their ball club.
Buck first pitch swinging.
Ryan Ludwig maybe. You know, at San Diego they most certainly needed some more offense. They needed a bat in their lineup. But really everybody else, you know, maybe made themselves a little bit better. I thought the Yankees probably more than anything would have liked to have added an arm, maybe especially a solid arm out in the bullpen.
They did add Kerry Wood to pitch in front of Mariano Rivera, and good news on that front as Alfredo Aceves will throw off the mound and may start facing hitters as early as this week. And he was such a stalwart in that pen last year. He could go multiple innings. He picked up 10 wins out of the pen. John Buck, line shot. Oh, and Cabrera moving towards the bag, has to change mid-flight, and it's a good jumping catch.
Well, one step to his left, and the key to making the play is to make sure that the timing is correct when you make your jump. And Cabrera with a nice job. But Kerry Wood, having just come off the disabled list, and the fact that at times he has been inconsistent and he is injury prone, not so sure that's the answer for the Yankees in the bullpen.
You know, the numbers are ugly, but when we last saw him, as Snyder hits this ball to center field, Trevor Crow trying to chase it down, Crow into the gap and makes the catch. And Snyder has an extra base hit taken away.
Right fielder, number 1.
Just hung up there long enough.
Good jump by Trevor Crow on this ball, hit into left center. And it looked like the wind might have held the ball up just a little bit. And an outstanding running catch by Trevor Crow.
France, when we last saw Kerry Wood at the end of June in the series in Cleveland, he had been a short time off the disabled list there, and he looked like his old self. I mean, reaching into the mid-90s with the fastball. It saved 3 games in 3 opportunities, going back to the series before the Blue Jays in Cincinnati to end interleague play. And if he can find that form, that should bode well for the Yankees. Dwayne Wise drops it in front of Crow in center field. 2-out base hit.
There's no question when Kerry Wood is healthy and he is on top of his game, he can definitely make a big difference. But for me, right now he's a question mark, and he has been for a long time, not just recently for me, because he has such trouble staying healthy. And when you can't stay healthy, it's tough to be consistent.
I thought Berkman was a really interesting add over there. You have on the bench now Berkman and Kearns. You have Cervelli and Posada. It's mostly Cervelli catching with Posada spending some time at DH. And then you have Ramiro Pena. Dwayne Wise on the way. Escobar up the middle. It's the second baseman on the shortstop side of the bag. Makes a good play, Donald, to get Escobar. Lucido Gaston tries to start the runner. And on this occasion, it doesn't work out. Jays and Indians tied at 2. 716-341-1234 for tickets. BlueJays.com or most Rogers Plus locations to check out some American League East competition. Surprised at all, Rance, that the Red Sox didn't make a significant move?
Yes, I am. Especially in terms of somebody behind the plate.
Gerald Saltalamacchia picked up, but he immediately goes to AAA and has not been an impact guy. A huge prospect, and feeling like they're getting an Escobar situation.
Well, the problem with Saltalamacchia for
Crow keeps it inside the bag. That's Dwayne Wise, who has a good arm. Crow trying to stretch it, and he will do so successfully. Third extra base hit in this game for the Cleveland Indians. Now extend their major league leading streak to 54 straight games with an extra base hit.
Trevor Crow with a ball hit hard on the ground just over the bag at first base. Well, Saltalamacchia, for those who aren't familiar with his story, the reason really that he had to go to AAA when he was with the Rangers and now assigned to AAA after this trade is he has the mental block of throwing the ball back to the mound, to the pitcher. And that's something that I recently read an article about it, and he's worked very hard. They've had a psychologist involved to try to help him. But until he can overcome that, obviously you can't play him at the major league level, at least not behind the plate. John Buck would be someone that they would have a lot of interest in.
Sure, Alex Anthopoulos not overly enthused to help out a divisional opponent. And so I'm sure the asking price was fairly high if indeed the Red Sox were looking at a guy like John Buck.
And it probably, for anybody of significance, somebody like Buck or someone that in that category that the Red Sox would have been interested in, how many, first of all, number one, are there those types of players out there that would have maybe been available?
Cabrera drops the bunt down. Litch off the mound, wipes out, picked up by Bautista, not in time. So he got off the mound quickly, but just couldn't keep the footing.
Well, Cabrera not necessarily trying to bunt for a base hit, just didn't feel comfortable, maybe trying to pull the ball to the right side and move the runner. Just drops it down, but no problem getting there. Just a problem getting his feet set. It's like he slipped. They went right out from underneath Jesse Litch. Nice effort by Bautista, but Cabrera runs well enough to have himself a base hit.
Second hit of the game for Cabrera, who's been very impactful. A two-run shot in the first to provide all of the Indians' offense to this point. Shin-Soo Choo goes after the first Litch offering and fouls it out of play.
But there's probably not that many out there that would have been available in terms of someone behind the plate that the Red Sox would have really had interest in. And if there were, the asking price probably was too steep.
A team banged up by injuries all season long. Litch with runners at the corners. Misses to Choo. Ryan Talbot starting to get loose. Talbot worked yesterday and took the loss. Pitch up to 70 pitches now. Quick check of Cabrera at first, who's in without issue.
This is a critical moment in the ballgame, particularly this at bat. If he can retire Choo.
Misses up and away.
Maybe it can change the complexion of the inning, but if Choo were to get a base hit right here in this situation, that really puts the Cleveland Indians in a good position to maybe break this game open a little bit. And right now, if you're Jesse Litch and the Jays, you'll trade an out for that runner off of third base. That run scores. You'll let them have that for an out right here in this situation.
Middle of the infield back. Bautista in even with the bag at third.
And of course, Choo runs very well, so a tough man to double up.
Litch sets. And the runner Cabrera in there with a stolen base. So Buck just had a little trouble on the exchange.
It's unfortunate because Cabrera didn't have a particularly good jump off of first base. If Buck can make the exchange cleanly, pretty good opportunity to throw him out at second base.
Full count pitch. This is just away, and Chu draws the walk. The bases are loaded.
Catcher number 41, Carlos Santana.
Bruce Walton and Cito Gaston having a discussion on the bench about how far they will let Jesse Litch go. As is normally the case, Cito likes to get his starters through at least 5 to give them the opportunity to win the game. But
anything in this situation that would give Cito pause and thought is Santana from the right side hits 152, from the left 316, and it looks like now he's going to make the change.
So right on cue, after a first pitch ball to Santana, Brian Talbot is called in out of the pen. Not often you see pitching changes made mid-count, but that's the case here. Indians and Jays tied at 2. Here with a switch hitter Santana up, he started the attack on the left side and now switches over to hit from the right side against the lefty Talbot.
Well, it's the percentage move. There's no question about that. There's a look at Talbot's numbers on the season. Santana hit 152 from this side of the plate, 316 from the left side. And this most certainly could be a situation that can determine the outcome of this ball game. So turn him around.
First pitch in the dirt. Buck keeps it in front. Brief history between the two. They've seen each other twice before, and Santana 0 for 2 in those 2 previous at-bats.
And the key is here, we're overstating the obvious, but the ability to make a pitch, throw strikes by Brian Talbot.
Two to Santana, misses. And now Talbot threatening to walk the go-ahead run in. .30 pitch, and that's exactly what he does. Trevor Crow crosses, and the Indians use the bases loaded walk to take the lead for the 2nd straight game.
First baseman number 7, Matt Laporta.
Bases loaded walk yesterday in yesterday's ball game led to the first run for the Indians, and still nobody out, so a great opportunity for Matt Laporta.
Three 2 Cleveland in the top of the 5th. There are no out and the bases are loaded. Matt Laporta doesn't offer at the first pitch from Talbot, who gets the Bronx cheer.
The Bronx cheer.
So that run will be charged to Litch. One pitch hit on the ground. Escobar over to Hill and turns it over and completes the double play. But the run comes across to score, and it's now a 4-2 lead as Cabrera crosses.
But a big double play at this point in the ball game. Now you have a chance to get out of it down just 2, and with this Jays offense, that's not much to have to overcome. Boy, that double play can really kill the momentum of an inning.
That run also charged to Litch as Jordan Brown steps in. He's 0 for 2. Brown hitting .309 with 6 home runs and 63 driven in at AAA Columbus. Drafted in the 4th round of the 2005 draft out of Arizona. Won the Carolina League MVP in 06. Won the Eastern League MVP in 07. And won a batting title in the International League last year.
Suffice to say that he doesn't have anything left to prove in the minor leagues, does he?
He had .336 there. It's been 6 years, 560 minor league games to this day to his major league debut. What's interesting about the numbers, the 63 RBI this year, he's missed 39 games at AAA and still able to find himself in the top 3 in runs batted in the International League. Choose at third. Talbot works. Good cut there by Brown. There is a Canadian by the name of Nick Weglars in the Indians minor league system, and there was some speculation that he may be called up. I asked Manny Acta about that this morning in the pregame meeting, and he said there's a good possibility that Weglars will see some big league at-bats this year now that the Indians have gone so young. Getting rid of Gridzelanek, the trading of Peralta and Kearns. Two-two pitch from Talbot. Strike 3. Well, Jordan Brown is 0 for 3 here in his big league debut, but the Indians do a little damage and have taken a 2-run lead.
his prior 3 starts, his control had been very, very good. It's what had made him effective, but he really struggled here this afternoon. He went 4 innings, 4+ if you will. The 6 hits, he walked 2, but he was behind in the count on several occasions. Made a lot of mistakes in the strike zone. Some balls were hit hard. Tough outing this afternoon for Jesse Litch.
No, he can only lose this game now as Jose Bautista leads things off for the Blue Jays in the bottom of the 5th inning. Cleveland ahead 4-2. Jose Bautista 0 for 3 yesterday. 0 for 1 here today. He's been able to draw a couple of walks over those 2 games. Continues to enjoy an outstanding season.
In his last at bat yesterday, you're just talking about the walks in a 1-run ball game. There's the Cabrera obviously is 1 closer now, but Bautista's still 5 out in front of Cabrera. But in a 1-run ball game yesterday, and I know Vernon Wells was on deck, but this guy's been on a tear. I didn't expect him to throw him a strike. They did, and he undressed the third baseman. That was the ball that bounced to the shortstop, and they were able to throw him out at first base. But it was one of those situations to where even though there's nobody out, I mean, there's 2 out and there's nobody on, when you certain guys in a 1-run ball game, you just don't throw them a strike. If they want to swing and get themselves out, let them do it. But they were fortunate, just very fortunate, that the ball was hit on the ground at the third baseman, who had been put into the ball game for defensive purposes.
Andy Marte. Gomez delivers the full count pitch. It's hit on the ground to the shortstop Cabrera. 1 down. And Gomez has done yeoman's work here. Coming in the pinch after Jake Westbrook was traded yesterday. Josh Tomlin, who was supposed to be today's starter, was bumped up to yesterday on 3 days rest. He had to reach in AAA Columbus to find Genmar Gomez, who on May 21st of last year pitched a 9-inning perfect game for the Akron Arrows of the Eastern League. It was the first time in Arrows history that had been done. He struck out 8 batters. His catcher in that game, Carlos Santana, who also caught his big league debut on July 18th. A 1 to Wells. In that perfect game, facing the Yankees AA affiliate, the Trenton Thunder. Two-1 pitch to Vernon Wells. Got a couple of doubles in this game, but the home run drought continues. Just 1 in his last 107 at bats. Hit on the ground to the left side. Valbuena over, and Laporta has to come off the bag and make the tag.
Here's a look at the throw. Valbuena, the elbow gets a little bit low. Leads to a high throw, but a nice play by Laporta to come off the bag, make the catch, and apply the tag on Wells.
So Valbuena, who was mostly a second baseman last year for the Indians, with Nick struggling there defensively, as Lynn fouls this first pitch off. With Nick struggling defensively, Valbuena inserted at third base. his first start of the year in that position. So understandably that when you move across the diamond, as he talks a little bit about his throw, it's a lot different from third than it is second.
Well, at second base, on a lot of plays, you can let the elbow get low and just kind of use your wrist and make a little flip throw. But when the elbow gets low, when you've got to really let it go, you're going to get under it.
Big cut by Lind.
And no doubt Adam Lind a little frustrated with himself. 2-1 count. Pitch is clearly up and away out of the strike zone. He chases it, and that really kind of changes the complexion of the at-bat.
This one lifted in the air to left. Shelley Duncan there and waiting for it. And that's it. The Blue Jays go quietly in the bottom of the fifth and continue to trail by 2. Five consecutive series against teams that going into today are 500 or better. And you'd have to say that the Angels normally better than a 500 team. So a rough patch coming up.
Yes, and the West Coast seems to always be a tough place for the Jays to play. In particular, Anaheim. And, of course, Oakland is a little better this year than they've been the last couple of seasons. But I think the Yankees, the Rays, and the Red Sox speak for themselves.
Brian Tullett out to work the top of the sixth. The Blue Jays down 4-2.
But at least you're going to have a very, very good opportunity to evaluate your ball club and really see where it is you need to strengthen your ball club in order to compete with those real good teams.
Cito Gaston talked a little bit today about that fact and facing these tough American League East teams and then going out west, how the experience should help benefit this team and learning how to win games. Now, there are plenty of veteran guys here, Wells and Hill and Lind and Bautista, who've been around a little bit. But for Escobar and Snyder, getting more experience there, and the pitching staff getting to pitch in some tough ball games, and a team here that can make a difference in the American League East standings.
Well, go ahead, Sam.
By going in and playing, the Tampas and the Bostons and the New York's really tough. And hey, the Angels are on the outside looking in the American League West. They can do some damage in that division as well. 2-2 count to Shelley Duncan, who's 0 for 2 in this game. Lifted to the right side. Aaron Hill gives way to Dwayne Wise. Rogers Sportsnet, the home of the Blue Jays, right back at you tomorrow. It's the Yankees and the Blue Jays. Brandon Morrow takes the ball against A.J. Burnett. Pretty similar looking numbers there, as Morrow has seemingly turned a corner and has established himself as a top end of the rotation starter.
Well, a couple of hard throwers, guys that can definitely dominate and overmatch a very good hitting lineup. Be interesting to see how it plays out. It's critical for the Yankees that A.J. Burnett, who has not had a very good year here over the last couple of months, get back on track and pitch well for them.
Earlier in the week, Buck Martinez, our colleague, compared the curveball of Brandon Morrow, becoming a little bit like A.J. Burnett's, has a big weapon in his arsenal and something that's developed this year.
Brandon Morrow has outstanding stuff. Goes very hard. And it's interesting, one of the things that the Jays need is a #1 starter. And, you know, not to say that a Brandon Morrow or a Ricky Romero.
0-2 to Valbuena, lifted out of play.
Will not develop into a #1 starter. That remains to be seen. They both most certainly have the stuff to do it. There's Ricky Romero. But you can never have enough pitching, and even, let's say, if somebody in this current rotation ends up being a #1 type guy at the major league level, it wouldn't hurt to have two.
A 1A.
Yeah, a 1A.
Buena doing a good job in battling Brian Talbot.
You know, you mentioned the Angels out there in the West at 53 and 53, 500 there. Now they come into this afternoon 9 games back of the Rangers. Of course, the A's 8.5 back. So the Rangers in command of the West. That's why the addition of Cliff Lee to that rotation. I mean, now you've got the anchor. And I just can't see, unless something, you know, somebody gets hurt, something unforeseen happens, they should win the division.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Talbot picks up his second strikeout.
A very good pitch sequence by Brian Talbot throughout this at bat, and is able to finish the hitter off with a very, very good breaking ball, striking out Valbuena.
Rance, you touched on the Texas Rangers. Josh Hamilton out of the lineup last night. He's banged up a little bit. Ian Kinsler out of the lineup, and that's why Jorge Cantu was also acquired from Florida at the deadline. And so plenty of interesting things. As this ball is hit by Donald, it's hit far, and it is out. Home run, Jason Donald. And the Indians take a 5-2 lead. Third home run of the year for the Indians' second baseman. A 2-out solo shot to increase the lead to 3.
The importance of location. John Buck wanted that fastball down and away on the outer third. Ball ends up down and in. And Donald hits it out of the ballpark. We might add that the Texas Rangers also picked up Christian Guzman.
Getting some more middle infield help, although Cantu does play some first base there. So,
but between the two, Guzman would definitely be a better defensive player at second base than Cantu. Of course, Cantu can swing the bat. But they went out and got what they needed. They had an injury. They needed to fill that spot, and they've picked up a couple of pretty good players.
And it surprised me with the ownership being in the state that it's in, a state of flux. The Rangers soon to go up for auction, and Nolan Ryan, of course, heading a group that wants to buy the team, but nothing has become official yet. Trevor Crowe has had a nice afternoon. 1 for 1. Scored a couple of runs. And a nice steadying influence for Maniaca at the top of the order. Yesterday, the Indians beat the Blue Jays by a 2-1 count. That was the 33rd time the Indians have scored 2 or fewer runs in a game, and just their 3rd win in those situations. Crow goes down. Another run is added. 5-2 Cleveland. Seats and getting back into his seats, Miles Brandt. And we had him up here in the booth yesterday, a recipient of a Children's Wish Foundation wish, in which he experienced an entire weekend here at the Rogers Center, and caught a sneak peek of him running out with the ground crew to change the bases there in the 5th inning. So he's gotten a chance to meet Aaron Hill, some of the rest of the Blue Jays, and enjoyed a fine weekend. As Genmar Gomez's afternoon is done, Tony Sipp comes in out of the Cleveland pen.
5.17 ERA. Good arm, 41 strikeouts, but clearly struggles with lack of control, 28 walks.
Aaron Hill going after Sipp right away. Nine holds on the season for Sipp. Hill has driven in both runs, including his 15th home run of the year. That all the way back in the 2nd inning. Blue Jays looking for signs of hope. Sipp has allowed 19 runs in his last 19 innings worked. But here he's able to get Aaron Hill to start the inning.
Well, and clearly Aaron Hill did not like the call. The ball looked like it was a little down. Ball's down. Well, Sipp with a good arm, fastball with good life, 91, 92. Has a good slider with good depth and hard break, and pretty good changeup to go along with it.
Has held lefties to just 207 average this year, and so he'll get a full complement of them here, starting with Overbay. 2 hitters later, it'll be Snyder, and then to the top of the order for Dwayne Wise. So, Rancy, look at the series upcoming with the New York Yankees. What do you expect out of the Blue Jays there and in that 5-series schedule where they're facing some very tough opponents?
I think more than anything else, I felt this way for a long time. It's not who you're playing, it's how you're playing at the time. And the Blue Jays have been on a pretty good roll. It's been a pretty good month coming out of July. Now, of course, we're in August. But I expect them to play well. I mean, there's no reason that they shouldn't.
Sip takes care of Overbay. Back-to-back strikeouts for the Indians lefty.
Number 14,
It's just a challenge fastball.
Two down for John Buck. Buck's 14 home runs, tied for first in Major League catchers. He too thought it was a little low.
When you, as a ball club, when you go into a place like Yankee Stadium,
good rip there by Buck. He's had a couple of those in this game.
You have to go in there with somewhat of a chip on your shoulder or an attitude. You can't go in there feeling like, we're in Yankee Stadium, we're playing the Yankees, and get caught up in that. Here's the matchups. It'll be Morrow against Burnett, Romero against Mosley, and Markham against Hughes on Wednesday. But you can't be intimidated. You have to have an attitude when you go in there. If you don't, you're going to get beat up.
0-2 pitch to Buck. It bounces.
Same way when you go into Boston or anywhere else really on the road. But even more so, let's say in this division, let's just stay in the Eastern Division. You go to New York, you go to Boston, you go to Tampa Bay. You better go in there with an attitude that you mean business, or they're going to beat you up pretty good.
Establishes up and into Buck. Count even at 2-2. But there is something to be said when you play in front of Boston crowds and New York crowds. That's a little different than what it's like going into Tampa Bay.
That's what I'm saying. You can't get caught up in all that, though. You just have to play and stay focused on what it is you need to get done on the field.
Buck hit hard. Right center field. Going back to get it is Chu, and just in front of the track. Hauls it in. So Sip comes out of the pen, retires the Blue Jays in order. It's 5-2 Cleveland through 6. As our commentator clothing is provided in part by Z Zenya. Statistical information provided by StatSync, and music provided by Universal Canada. Nice look from the harbor into the open roof here at the Rogers Center. Blue Jays continue to trail the Indians 5-2. Asdrubal Cabrera has had quite the afternoon. And he starts things off with a fly ball to center field. Vernon Wells on the first pitch.
Right field, number 17, Shin-Soo Choo.
Shin-Soo Choo follows Cabrera, and when I spoke to Manny Acta this morning and asking him about who would assume that leadership role, he did point to Cabrera, but he also pointed to Choo. And he says it's a lot easier to be a leader when you're a good player. What are your thoughts on that, Rance? Is that a necessity to be a leader? Do you have to be a good player?
No, you don't have to be the best player on the team. You have to be a solid major league everyday guy. That's for sure. But you don't have to be the best player on the team to be a leader. Leadership qualities are something that it's a very fine line that's very difficult to define. It's suffice to say, guys that are leaders, whatever it takes to be a leader, they have it. And it just kind of comes naturally to them.
On such a young team, that's something that the Indians will look for moving forward, as Shin-Soo Choo is hit right in the behind.
Yeah. Talent trying to go in with a fastball. And he got it in there, but just a little bit too far. But you know, I played the three that come to my mind that I played with that were the leaders were in California was Don Baylor, and Don at the time basically was a DH. Now in '79 he was the MVP of the American League. But as far as, and he was a real presence, so he was a leader. The next I would say was Hal McRae in Kansas City. But again, a DH, he was not the best player on the ball club, but he most certainly was the leader. George Brett would tell you that. And then here, when Winfield came along in '92, he was the real leader of this ball club. Of course, he was a great player.
Choo with the lead. Santana can't check his swing. Manny Acta also said that, hey, we're going to rely on our coaches to coach more and to be more of an example for our players. They're going to need some direction. Acta is familiar to seeing a similar situation while managing with Washington, a team that was going through a rebuild.
And another example that comes to mind, and I asked Brad Mills this when he was the bench coach in Boston. I said, who's the leader of your ball club? And at the time, this has been about 3 years ago, and he says, there's no question that Mike Lowell is the leader of this ball club, and he does it very quietly. Now, we all know Mike Lowell was not the best player on that team, but he was the leader for the Red Sox during their great years.
Talent checks Choo over at first. So, Rance, leadership. Everyone talks about it. What is it? And cite an example for me. You talk about Winfield and Baylor and Hal McRae. What is it that they have done, or what is it that they did when you were playing with them?
Well, all of them are a little bit different. Don Baylor could do it quietly. But I'll talk about Winfield since he played here and was the leader of that '92 World Championship team. He was the type of individual, of course, the credentials automatically give him credibility. So people are kind of naturally going to listen.
2-2 pitch. Santana lifts it to center field. Vernon Wells with a good beat on it. Choo gets halfway, but he will retreat, and there are 2 down.
But we had a very, our first homestand, we had a team meeting. We had this coaching staff. Everybody was in there, and Dave basically sat down and here's how we're going to go about it. It's not an individual thing. We're here to win, and everybody's going to play to win. And if you don't want to do it that way and you're not interested in doing it that way, then you have 2 options. You can basically go upstairs and tell the general manager that you would like to play somewhere else and ask him to trade you and accommodate you if he can. Otherwise, you can step out here in the hallway when the meeting's over with and take it up with me. Dave was 6'6", 250. Nobody was going to do that.
At Laporta.
But when you take a player like Winfield, and of course we know now, he's a Hall of Famer. When he plays it the right way, that was the way he set the example. Runner needed to be moved from second to third. He would hit that ball to the right side. He was always looking to take the extra base. he was always well prepared and gave his best effort every day. And when the best player on the team does that, it's just only natural that people are going to fall right in line.
Chu on his way. Check swing by Laporta. Bautista over to corral it. Sidearm throw across the diamond. No problem. So Chu is stranded. The Blue Jays move to the bottom of the 7th inning, trailing by 3.
Miguel Escobar, and it's clear that he really admires Jose Bautista and looks to him all the time for help and advice. But just one last thought on Dave Winfield, because I don't want to leave the impression that he was just an intimidating guy, and that's the way, because he wasn't. That was not his style. He could be tough if he needed to be, but Dave was the type of guy that would go to you, had the wherewithal or the courage to kind of pull you aside and say, that particular play last night, whatever it may be, whatever the situation was, you're better than that. And we're here to win, and the next time you need to make sure that you get the job done in that situation. Whatever's called upon you to do, for you to do to help the team win the game has to be the focus.
So much of that seems to be lost these days as Travis Snider leads it off to the Blue Jays in the bottom of the 7th. Blue Jays looking for 3 to tie. Snider in his first start since the 14th of May is 0 for 2, a couple of flyouts to center field. But it almost seems as if today's player is a little more sensitive, and they don't want to hear that from other players.
But you have to be able to, because when you get out here as a team, off the field, obviously you have a lot of different personalities, and you have a group of guys that, go to dinner and hang out together. I mean, there might be 3 or 4 different kind of cliques, if you want to use the word clique, when they leave the ballpark here. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you come out of the ballpark, you all have to be on the same page. You have to pull for one another, and you have to be able to accept some criticism.
Snider left side. This one sailing towards the seats, and it does make it there about 6 rows in.
And some advice. And if you're a little bit sensitive about that, either you need to toughen up and mature a little bit, or you have to understand that it's not all about you. We're here to win the ball game today, and if that means you've got to give up an at-bat by hit a ball to the right side to move a runner over to third, then that's what you have to do.
1-2 pitch to Snider. Same place, just a little further in the seats. How much of that responsibility lies with the manager and with the coaching staff?
Well, most certainly some of it lies with the manager, and the manager can set the tone and make it very clear that that's what is expected. But oftentimes there's nothing more influential than peer pressure. And you get a player on the team or a couple of guys on the team that they really come out here and they want to win every day, and they do what it takes to win, and then they come to you and say, hey, you got to be better in that situation next time, because again, the key is we're here to win. It's not about individual stats.
1-2 from Sip to Snider, up and in.
That oftentimes carries more water, if you will, than if it comes from somebody that's a member of the staff.
Two-two pitch, and again Snyder doing a good job fighting Tony Sipp.
Yeah, Travis Snyder's got himself a pretty good at bat going here. He fell behind early, but he's been able to fight off some pitches. He's had good discipline anyway so far in this at bat. Let's try to let the ball get a little bit deep in the strike zone, not commit too early, chase something that's not a strike.
Reaches again and fouls it off. How much can a position player, have an influence on a pitching staff, or do they need to have their own separate leaders?
I don't think they have to have anybody that's a separate leader, but oftentimes they probably do. Maybe on this staff, a guy like Ricky Romero, in terms of, at least maybe with the starting staff, or a Sean Markham, who's really set a fine example. But the thing, pitching is a much more individual, because when you're out there on that mound, and you have to execute, right? And you know what your job is, and of course they're all out there trying to not let anybody score.
Full count pitch to Snyder.
So pitching is a little different animal altogether. Sometimes now a pitcher has to be smart and realize certain situations with hitter A, I can't give in right here. If I pitch around him, I walk him or whatever, I'll go after the guy that's on deck because my numbers are much better. I like the matchup a lot, but you have to be prepared and well aware of that and have that sort of information.
12th pitch of the at-bat, and it will continue for Travis Snyder.
In this age of information, there is no reason why anybody that's out there on the mound or at the plate shouldn't be completely informed and prepared and know.
8 foul balls in the at-bat, and Snyder's giving away his souvenirs at a record pace.
Who I hit well, who I don't hit well, how's he going to try to pitch me? And as a hitter, how do I need to attack the guy? A pitcher, how do I attack the guy at the plate?
14th pitch of the at-bat, and for whatever reason, the fans here at the Rogers Center are starting to make some noise. Hit hard, one hop to Donald. 14 pitches later, and Snyder's retired.
That was a great at-bat. And Snyder hit the ball as hard as he could. A one-hop bullet right to the second baseman. And it didn't pay off for him, but you have to appreciate the determination to see what type of reception he gets in the dugout. Well, that was pretty passive.
Tony Sipp continues to face this Blue Jays lineup. Now to the top of the order for Dwayne Wise. Sipp has retired all 4 Blue Jays he's faced since coming on relief of Genmar Gomez to start the 6th inning.
Well, wildness at times has been a problem for Sipp, but not since he's entered the ball game here this afternoon. He's been very aggressive, pounded the strike zone with that fastball. You tried to suppress it, but to get back to the dugout after you've hit a ball right on the nose for an out, and somebody goes, hey, I had a way to hit the ball. Hit that ball hard.
Wise foul ball.
It's like, save it, because I really don't want to hear it. I'd rather have broken my bat and had 3 guys diving for it and it fall in for a base hit.
I'd feel a lot better standing out there than sitting beside you.
That's right.
Dugout. 1-2 pitch from Sipp. And Wise is struck out. 2 down.
You could win an all-new Honda CRZ and other great prizes when you vote for the Honda Play of the Month. Vote today at BlueJays.com.
Well, the Blue Jays bats have gone cold over the last 2 games. Just 1 run in yesterday's game and a 2-1 loss to the Cleveland Indians. And here, just 2 runs to show in this game through 6 2/3. And Aaron Hill has driven both of them in. Inside to Escobar. Hill hit his 15th in the 2nd inning to lead things off. That cut the lead to 2-1 at that point. Then he was able to tie it up in the third with an RBI single, bringing home Vernon Wells. But other than that, it's been tough for the Blue Jays to score over the last 2 games.
For whatever reason, the Jays have had a lot of trouble with the Cleveland Indians this year.
Didn't start that way. A 3-game sweep in early May. Escobar. This one is hit a ton. Shelley Duncan back, and he won't get there. Home run, Yunel Escobar. Third of the season for Yunel Escobar. And the Blue Jays bats slowly come to waken. It's now 5-3.
No question, the young man has a lot of pop in his bat. This was a no-doubter, and he really didn't get all of it. It kind of out towards the end of the bat there. You could see that on the replay. But this ball was gone the moment it left the bat. Well, you have some power when you can hit a ball 400 feet and you hit it out on towards the end of your bat.
So the Jays draw to within 2. Thanks to Yunel Escobar in his third. Third home run of the year to bring the Blue Jays to within 2 here in the bottom of the 7th inning. Frank Herman has come on in relief of Tony Sipp, and Herman's numbers are good. Bautista, a long way to left field. Back-to-back go the Blue Jays, and the lead is cut to 1. Jose Bautista, 32nd of the year. And he welcomes Frank Herman to the game in rude fashion.
Bautista's bat is electric. He can hit the ball as hard on the line as anybody in baseball, and this ball was absolutely crushed.
Back-to-back home runs, 2 out in the inning. And Vernon Wells steps in. Jose Bautista with his major league leading 32nd home run of the year. You have to go back to the 24th of June, the last time the Blue Jays went back-to-back. Wells and Lind in the first inning against the St. Louis Cardinals. And here it's Escobar and Bautista. Kind of a sleepy afternoon here at the Rogers Center. Runs have been tough to come by. First against Jim Margomez and then Tony Sipp. But here in the 7th inning, the bats have come alive, and the Blue Jays trail by only 1 now. Herman started the year going 3-0 with a couple of saves at AAA Columbus in 19 appearances. And then he was called up on the 4th of June. Hit on the ground by Wells. The shortstop Cabrera gathers it. And over to first in time, but not before the Blue Jays go back-to-back. Yunel Escobar with his 3rd of the year. Jose Bautista with his major league leading 32nd. It's 5-4 Cleveland. Offers on quality vehicles. Summer's a great time to buy a Toyota. Cito Gaston has gone to the bullpen for left-hander David Percy. Percy 0-1 with a 1.69, making his 20th appearance of the season. And that opponent's average way down. He's held opponents to just 171 average.
Well, he has been outstanding, hasn't he? And he came to the big leagues as a starter in the minor leagues, but maybe he's really found his spot, and that's pitching out of the bullpen.
Had some control issues, so the Blue Jays tailored his repertoire back. Basically a fastball slider guy now, and is able to use max effort, working short stints coming out of the pen.
Yeah, does not have to be concerned with going through the lineup twice, 3 times. Just come in and challenge the hitters and let it go. A very good fastball and a hard slider. More like a slurve, really.
Jordan Brown 0 for 3 on the afternoon here in his major league debut.
And it's interesting, with nobody aboard, he pitches out of the stretch. That also simplifies things a little bit in terms of mechanics.
1-1 pitch from Percy misses. Given up just 13 hits all year. What is it, Rance, when you look at Percy that's so deceptive?
Well, his delivery is a little bit deceptive. But when you can run it up there, especially as a left-hander, for whatever reason, at 93, 94, occasionally 95, you don't have to be too deceptive.
And deceives Jordan Brown with a strikeout.
Yeah, if nothing else, I don't know if it's deceptive, but he hides the baseball well because he throws across his body. If you watch where the front foot lands, as opposed to where, for the most part, most left-handers, or even right-handers for that matter, that front foot would land much more in line with home plate than David Percy. His kind of throws across his body. Watch the front foot.
First pitch swing for Duncan.
Kind of gives you the impression that the ball's almost coming, if you will, from the second baseman. Here you'll get a look. You see the front foot land, and then he really throws across his body. That allows him to hide the baseball. So at 92 or 93, as a hitter, it appears like it's 96, 97. The ball gets on you a little bit.
Duncan takes a mighty hack, and as the season has progressed since his recall from AAA Las Vegas, Cito Gaston has shown more confidence in Percy and put him in more important roles and situations. Trying to continually expose him to even tougher situations to help him grow.
When you perform as well as he has, and it's only natural that your manager begins to get more and more confidence in you and is not afraid to use you against any hitter in any situation.
0-2 to Duncan. Try to check a swing. They'll check down to the first base umpire at Hipcox, and he says no. His 2 home runs have livened up this Rogers Center crowd. Percy's job here in the 8th to hold the fort. John Buck will give it a look. This one will sail well into the seats behind the Cleveland dugout. Percy works, and in the dirt it goes. Right-handed hitters just 9 for 50 off Percy this year. It's a 180 average. Two to Duncan. Hit on the ground. Jose Bautista gathers it up. Good strong throw across to Overbay. Jose Bautista having to make that adjustment from right field to third, and he's shown no ill signs.
A good athlete, and he's had a lot of experience playing third base. And he's been very good this afternoon.
That's a big question moving forward for the Blue Jays. Does Edwin Encarnacion factor in? Now with Snyder back in the mix, the year that Fred Lewis has had, you have Vernon Wells to play out there as well.
Well, yeah.
There's some decisions to be made in the future. There
are some decisions, but chances are those decisions will be made based upon performance. I think a key is, Travis Snyder was really on a roll prior to the injury. If he can get going again and really establish and solidify himself as a real good hitter here at the major league level, that most certainly is going to start to have some influence. Does Overbay back, or is he not back? That changes things, because that may mean that Lind or even Snyder end up playing first base.
Well, as you get a look at Overbay, Maniaca has gone to the bench for Andy Marte. 0 for 5 in a pinch hitting role this year. He's in to pinch hit for the left-handed hitting Louis Valbuena. So Marte, the right-handed bat, comes off the bench with 3 home runs this year.
So oftentimes performance determines who's going to ultimately end up at what position. Right now, I would say that the Jays, and I'm just talking about Bautista now, would prefer to leave him in right field.
There are, at times, not enough emphasis put on defense. 2-0 count. Sliced to the right side by Marte, and that's why Cito Gaston has come to value so much the play of Lyle Overbay, the play of Jose Bautista out in right field, and what it does for an inexperienced pitching staff by saving runs and ultimately saving pitches.
Well, it really does. First base doesn't There's not a lot of emphasis oftentimes talked about the importance of defense at first base, but it's critical.
The foul ball by Marte to even the count at 2-2.
Because you need that guy over there that can help the infielders out on some throws, you know, tough throws that he has to handle. Balls in the dirt. You also have the bunt plays that you're involved in. You're involved, obviously, any ball to right or to center. You're the cutoff man. So a lot of responsibility, a lot of things you have to do as a first baseman. And as you mentioned, Sam, we talked about this before the game. You know, a guy digs a ball out of the dirt over there, let's say the ends the inning. That saves some pitches and some wear and tear on your pitcher, because now he doesn't have to face that extra hitter in the inning. And who knows, oftentimes, guy doesn't make a play over there, dig a ball out for you, and leads to a couple of runs.
Count is full here for David Percy. The Blue Jays trail Cleveland 5-4 here in the top of the 8th inning. There are 2 down in the inning. David Percy facing pinch hitter Andy Marte. 3-2 pitch. And another foul back. Marte putting together a Travis Snyder-like at bat.
Well, Marte entered the ball game yesterday for defense at third base, and of course here late in the game with a 1-run lead, feel like this 8th slot's going to get one more at bat, so you let Marte hit to the left-hander, and then he goes to third defensively.
We saw Snyder with a 14-pitch at bat that resulted in a ground out to second in the bottom of the 7th inning. Marte doing the same thing now. An 8-pitch at bat.
So it's apparent that Manny Acta feels as if Marte is his best defensive third baseman late in the ball game.
5 foul balls for Marte. 9th pitch on its way. 3-2. Another foul ball.
Well, he definitely has him in a situation where if he could throw that breaking ball, that hard slider for a strike, he'd probably punch him out or take the sting out of his bat, but you'd hate to walk him 3-2 with something other than the fastball.
Hit high in the air. This one looks like it's going to stay in play. Bautista in, and the inning is over. Nice job by David Percy. The Blue Jays come to bat in the bottom of the 8th, trailing by 1.
Well, the play of the game this afternoon, we'll go back to the bottom of the 7th inning. Back-to-back home runs. The first one by Escobar. That would be followed up by Bautista. 2 solo shots get the Jays right back in this ball game. Makes it 5-4.
Visit BlueJays.com/Burger King to register for a chance to win prizes with the Burger King Super Fan Contest. has gone to the bullpen once again. The left-hander Rafael Perez comes in to face Lind, Hill, and Overbay. So a couple of lefties on their way up, and Perez, a lefty, comes into this game 3-0.
Pretty good ERA. They hit pretty good batting average against him. 45 hits, seeing 37 2/3. Clearly not overpowering. Perez has two types of fastball. He has a four-seamer, 92, 93. He will two-seam it. Has some pretty good late sink. Good slider, very good slider, and a pretty good changeup.
Andy Marte comes in defensively after pinch hitting for Louis Valbuena. He takes not only a spot in the lineup, but on the field as well. First pitch up and into Adam Lind. Lind 0 for 4 lifetime against Perez. 0 for 2 in this game. He walked in the third. Blue Jays have been test driving Adam Lind over at first base. Now comes out to batting practice with the first baseman's glove at all times.
That's what you call it, huh? Test drive?
A little test drive.
Okay. Well, Brian Butterfield, who spends a lot of time working with Adam Lind, prior to batting practice.
2-1 pitch. Perez delivers, and Lind fouls it back.
Says that he has improved in terms of his footwork, and he said he has very good aptitude, understands what it is you're trying to get him to do, and he says he really wants to do it. He works hard at it. It remains to be seen if he will eventually one day end up at first base.
Two pitch, hit hard on the ground. Flicked by Donald, one down. And the Blue Jays with Travis Snyder coming back off the disabled list now of too many position players for not enough position. And so Lind, taking more ground balls at first base, can now spell Overbay on occasion. He has played there 3 times this year. But you want to get Lewis's bat in the lineup. You want to obviously get Snyder back and playing and continuing his development. You have Encarnacion, Bautista, Overbay. A lot of options for manager Cito Gaston. Aaron Hill's had a nice afternoon. 2 for 3 with his 15th home run of the year. A couple of runs batted in. A tidy 7 for 21 on the homestand. Completion of this series, Cleveland will head to Fenway to take on the Red Sox for 4.
Here's a look yesterday. Ryan Butterfield out early working with Adam Lind. That didn't look too good, but it's all part of the process. He's talking about how you want to move your feet, set yourself to make that throw to second base.
3-0, and Hill taking all the way. Butterfield does such a good job with the infielders. We've seen him work with Encarnacion and Lind over the last couple of days, continuing to have conversations with John McDonald during batting practice today.
He was also telling me Adam Lind, when he first went over to first base, he would kind of, when he'd start to go for the ball, then he'd kind of flip his glove and It's kind of hard to describe. You need kind of a visual to see it, but flip his glove out at the last minute to catch the ground ball instead of present the glove, get the glove out there, get it down, and then make the adjustment to the ball as necessary. And he said he's really improved in that area.
You see that in a lot of minor baseball. Full count pitch to Hill. Hill stroked hard to center field. Trevor Crowe is over and in the shadow makes the catch. 2 down.
First baseman, number 35, Lyle Overbay.
Go with 2 down in the 8th. It's Lyle Overbay hitting .249 this year with 12 home runs. He's driven in 40, but he's 0 for 3 here this afternoon. Was 3 for 4 in the opener of this series. Back on Friday night, an 8-1 win. Scored a run in that game. But since then, the Indians pitching staff has held Overbay at bay. Coming back about a month ago, there was so much thought about Overbay being moved. Being a free agent at the end of the year, good first baseman. The numbers starting to climb as far as his offensive production is concerned. Over the last week or so, a lot of those rumors died down. And it looks as if Overbay will finish the season here with the Blue Jays, although there is that waiver period that still may see some movement. Alex Anthopoulos telling us in the second inning of today's game that much harder to do that during the waiver period to move players.
I asked Overbay prior to the game his thoughts about the situation, his name being tossed around as potentially being traded. He says, you know, prior to this year, it always, when it would come up, it would create some anxiety. But he said, not this year. I finally decided I don't have any control over it. I'm not going to be concerned with it. I'm just going to stay focused on playing baseball. And he did indicate that he was happy here in Toronto. And if it works out that he ends up staying here in Toronto, that he'd be very pleased with that. But he said, I don't like to be disappointed. And he said, either way, if I wanted to be traded or if I wanted to stay here, one way or the other, you know, so oftentimes you end up being disappointed. So just don't think about it, don't worry about it, and move on.
Tried to take an even keel mindset into the trade deadline, but Overbay remains a Blue Jay. 3-1 pitch. Yanked hard, but he got around on it just a touch too early.
Looked like a hanging slider.
And hit it into that all-you-can-eat section. I hope they don't try and throw a little ketchup on that thing. It's been jam-packed all weekend long. All series here against the Cleveland Indians, the Lester's all-you-can-eat section has been rammed.
I've heard of mustard on a hot dog, but not ketchup on a baseball.
3-2 pitch. Overbay hit hard past Donald and into right field. Donald was already playing a shallow right field, and that was a hard hit shot, and Overbay's aboard.
Ball hit very hard. Donald tries to go down on one leg, and probably a play he should have made, but it was a base hit for Lyle Overbay.
So Overbay will come out of the game and give way to pinch runner John McDonald as Manny Acta also pays a visit to the mound. Rafael Perez will come out of this game. Joe Smith comes in out of the pen. We saw Smith work yesterday. Overbay getting the high fives. And we may get a chance to see Adam Lind move to first base, but that remains to be seen. We know this, Joe Smith to face John Buck next. Jays have pinch runner John McDonald at first and trail by 1.
Smith in here to face right-handed hitting John Buck. Of course, Smith pitched in yesterday's ball game and pitched effectively.
This is a Cleveland Indians staff that has been very good in terms of inherited runners. And that's the situation Smith finds himself in. He has inherited John McDonald, a pinch runner. This year, just 23.4% of inherited runners have scored. That's 44 of 188 inherited runners have scored. That's the best percentage in the American League, second only to the San Diego Padres in all of Major League Baseball. Smith charged with that task here as McDonald dives back in safely. Buck looked to check his swing, and indeed he did, says first base umpire at Hickox. McDonald with the lead. Now the secondary. Buck, same as last time. Did he check his swing? Not this time. 1-1 the count. Just 6 of 28 inherited runners have scored off Smith. That's the 8th best in the American League. McDonald not going anywhere. Buck, big swing right through it. McDonald pinch running for Lyle Overbay. Sharp single that got through Donald at second. Buck with a slice foul. The Blue Jays trailed 5-3 going into the bottom of the 7th before Yunel Escobar and Jose Bautista went back-to-back. The first time since the 24th of June the Blue Jays have had that occur. That cut the lead to 1. With 2 outs in the inning, Lyle Overbay singled. John McDonald pinch ran, and John Buck trying to bring him in.
And John Buck had a pretty good swing at that last little breaking ball or slider.
Can you cheat out over the plate a little bit with this guy? Is it tough for a side armor to come in righty to righty?
Well, the pitch prior, he ran it in on his hands. And that's what he intended to do there, was to sink it back in on his hands. He started the at-bat out with sliders to get, and it's only natural as a hitter you start to look out there away from you. And then he ran a 1-2. He sank the ball in on his hands. He fought it off over here foul, then came back with a slider, and Buck had a real good swing at it.
McDonald on the way. The pitch gets by Santana, and McDonald is in safely at second. Perfect time to go for John McDonald.
Well, 2 things. Very good jump by John McDonald. And it's kind of a win-win situation, if you will. If he steals second, now he's in scoring position. Here's no chance for the catcher. And if he gets thrown out, then in the 9th, John Buck starts with a fresh count.
First bag of the year for McDonald. And swing and a miss, strike 3. So McDonald is stranded. Smith comes in, gets the strikeout. The Blue Jays still behind by 1. He will remain in the game at third base. Jose Bautista moves across the diamond from third to first, and so that versatility that is so coveted in that power bat now switches positions, goes across the diamond. There was maybe some speculation that Adam Lind would come in the game, but Cito Gaston not wanting to lose his DH, especially moving to the top of the order, and that would be the case if Lind were to come in. Kevin Gregg now comes in out of the pen in relief of David Percy.
Opponent's hitting .229 against him. Of course, not a save situation. 39 2/3, 42 strikeouts. But a chance for him to get to work, to get some work, and you also bring your closer in here at home. Let him hopefully pitch a shutout inning and give you a chance to either tie it or win it in the bottom of the ninth.
We last saw Gregg work on Wednesday, July 28th against the Baltimore Orioles. He came in there in a non-save situation. 11 pitches, a couple of strikeouts. And now doing his best to keep the deficit at 1 to give the Blue Jays offense one more chance. Donald has hit the ball hard all game, including his 3rd home run of the year. That back in the 6th inning. And right now, his home run, the difference in this game. Good pitch by Gregg, and Donald will have to get a new piece of lumber.
You can also go back to that the 5th inning, top of the 5th, when Cleveland scored twice. Crow doubled, Cabrera singled, and then back-to-back walks. One to Chu, one to Santana, which forced in the first run, and then the second one would score on the double play ground ball. And we'll never know, but entering the game, if Talent had not walked Santana and make him put the ball in play, maybe the Jays could have gotten, assuming that puts the ball in play, maybe it's a double play, the guy scores, sac fly, something of that nature, and you get out of that with just the 1 run. It still is a tie ball game here tonight. So there's a lot of things that happen and go on that determine the outcome of a game.
A game of inches indeed, as Kevin Gregg works to Jason Donald here to start things off in the 9th inning. Two-two pitch. This is just away. As Donald swinging this time around. Full count to Jason Donald. Slap just foul to the right side.
Jason Donald with a pretty good at bat.
Watch the Jays on your BlackBerry, iPhone, or iPod Touch. It's At Bat 2010. Streaming play-by-play, video highlights available. Visit BlueJays.com for more details for the At Bat 2010 app. 3-2 again, and this time Donald swings through it.
Kevin Gregg, it looked like able to finish Donald off with a little slider. Everything away, at least the last 3 pitches, had been fastballs. And you got Donald to chase a ball down and out of the strike zone.
Top of the order for Trevor Crow. Crow 1 for 2 with a couple of runs scored. He's also walked and been hit by a pitch. Cito Gaston has relied on Brian Talbot the last couple of days to give that bullpen some extra added rest after that doubleheader weekend in Detroit. And usually the one who benefits from a couple of days off is the guy on the mound right now, Kevin Gregg. Two 2-1 pitch to Crow. Hit back up the middle. Escobar behind the bag and on the run. Makes a good play. Bautista hangs on at first.
When the ball was hit, it looked like it was a base hit for sure, but Escobar, well, he makes it look easy, doesn't he? And just tremendous range. He's so fluid. He was shading a little bit towards the middle, but he gets to this ball easy. And then the snap throw. Good stretch. You know, when you haven't been over there at first base, it's easy to commit a little too soon to stretch, and when you do, you get in bad position. You have to read the throw and let the throw determine which way or direction that front foot you need to make the stretch. And that was a good job by Bautista.
Continues to show his value and versatility. They got to sign this guy. Arbitration eligible next year at about $2.7 million this year, due for a huge raise, especially if he ends up as the home run leader and in the top 5 or 10 of runs batted in. But you'd have to think that maybe this guy's a late bloomer. And with all that versatility, even if he doesn't hit, let's say he hits 40 this year, if he doesn't do that next year, still have to lean on this guy for 20.
You almost feel he could hit 20 by accident with his power. But we talked about his attitude and his presence around the ball club also, and he may very well be a late bloomer. But you have to remember, you know, if you have to go back to September of last year, it had been quite some time before he'd even been given the opportunity to play every day.
2-2 pitch, just up.
And also, he doesn't have a lot of age on him to begin with. And he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear because over the last 3 or 4 years he hasn't played a lot.
3-2 pitch. Fouled off by Cabrera. And definitely something the Blue Jays will ponder now that the non-waiver trade deadline is passed. In the meantime, it's a full count here with the Blue Jays trailing by 1. Nobody on and 2 out for Asdrubal Cabrera. 3-2 pitch. Hit to short. Escobar gathers it up and again across the diamond, and the inning is over. Kevin Gregg goes 1-2-3. Coming up for the Jays, Snyder, Wise, and Escobar looking to tie it. Record when doing so, 19-5 combined.
Well, we know for sure they need to hit one more possibly here this afternoon to to tie it up.
Number 45.
It'll be a tough task.
For there are other ways to score here in the 9th inning. But they'll be up against hard-throwing Chris Perez. Power arm, throws very hard. That's 95, 96, has a very hard slider. Uses that primarily against the right-handers, especially to finish them off. 2.18 ERA, that's excellent. Opponents hit just 201 against him. If there's a knock on Perez, he can be a little wild and inconsistent. As you can see, 41 in the 3rd innings of work. He has walked 22. And the first man he will face here in Snyder is the last man he faced yesterday afternoon.
And for Perez, he got in and out of a little trouble, and Snyder hoping to exact a little revenge. A tough spot. It was his first big league at bat since the 14th of May. Came in with the bases loaded, struck out to end the game. He's 0 for 3 in this one.
Did hit the ball very hard against the left-hander in his last at bat.
14 pitch at bat.
And Snyder, with his power, doesn't have to pull the ball to hit it out of the ballpark. He can leave in any direction.
1-1 from Perez. Over the head of Donald and into right field. So Snyder leads things off here in the bottom of the 9th with a base hit.
Now that's going to be interesting how Cito Gaston elects to play it. He asked Wise to move him over. Here's the hanging slider. Boy, he had a nice pass. And he has, especially in his last 2 at-bats, looked better. Looks like the timing may be starting to come just a little bit. No chance for the second baseman. He asked Wise to bunt him along and then give Escobar and Bautista a chance to tie the game or to win it for you. You'd think Wise will be bunting.
Shows bunt, drags it down the first base side. Perez off the mound, the throw first in time, but Wise gets the job done as Snyder advances to second. Always does something, that Dwayne Wise.
And a perfect bunt. I mean, he really deadens it right at the first baseline. And this is with his speed, if Perez has just a little bit of trouble finding the handle, Wise will be safe.
Marte really bearing down on him from third base, so Wise felt better to drag it, and it worked out perfectly as he receives high fives in the advancement of Travis Snyder to second.
Well, the first baseman, obviously, he can't leave as early as the third baseman because he has to hold the runner. So when you're with a runner at first, make the first baseman make the play, or the pitcher, you get first and second. Oftentimes you want to make that third baseman have to handle the bunt.
Here comes Yunel Escobar. He's already hit his 3rd home run of the season. This one driven to left field right at Shelley Duncan. He's there to make the catch, and Snyder back to second. And now they're 2 down in the inning. He can't hit it much harder than that, but the Blue Jays will pin their hopes on Jose Bautista. He too has homered in this game. His 32nd of the year. He went back-to-back with Escobar in the 7th inning. And if you're Chris Perez, what do you do here against the Major League leading home run hitter?
You pitch very, very careful to him. You know, Perez has thrown his slider twice. He hung it to Snyder. He roped it into right field. He hung that one to Escobar. And Escobar had a pretty good pass at it. Just missed it a little bit. Looked like he hit it out on the end of the bat. But he did hang it.
Blue Jays down to their final out.
Bautista didn't like the first call, but it looked like a pretty good pitch.
3 for 5 lifetime against Perez. The pitch misses away.
But simply put, if you're Perez here, you don't give in. I mean, the guy has 32 home runs. He's been swinging a hot bat. He's had some pretty good success against you. 3 for 5, so.
But Rance, isn't this part of the lineup makeup? When you look on deck, it's a 21 home run hitter in Vernon Wells.
That most certainly factors in. The guy on deck is not somebody you're going to look forward to facing, but he hasn't been swinging the bat as well, in particular over the last month, is the man that you're facing right now.
Wells is 1 for 4 lifetime off Perez. Should he decide to pitch around Bautista? 1-1 pitch. In there for a strike.
It's a good pitch. Oh, that slider for a strike. He had it down in the strike zone. And now he's got it. Now basically he has 3 pitches to play with to make an out pitch.
Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Bautista swings through it. Travis Snyder stranded at second, and this game comes to an end. Perez picks up his 2nd consecutive save as the Indians hang on to win it 5-4. For Ransom Olenek, Scott Carson, and our entire Sportsnet crew, I'm Sam Cosentino saying good afternoon from Toronto. We take you now to Connected.